Sorry. Hello. Hi, everybody. It's 6 o'clock, so we'll get this started promptly. I'm Jordan Breckenser. I'm the president of Vermont News and Media. We publish the Brattleboro Reformer here and some sister papers and products here in Vermont. I wanted to thank the candidates for taking the time out tonight to come to this debate. It should be lively. It should be informative. Thank everybody who came here to participate, as well to BCTV for filming and getting all this technology set up for us. A big thank you to two great community sponsors, Casella Waste Management and the Richards Group, who helped fund to pull these things together. And then Sharon Annis, who's going to be our moderator and give you a couple quick rules and guidelines, very easy, very informal. We have 6 questions that were curated both by our news staff and by readers who had wrote into us. And with that, I'll take it away. Thank you, Sharon. Appreciate you.
So thank you. My name is Sharon Annis, as Jordan said, and this is my first time doing this, so bear with me. So the ground rules really are that all of you candidates each get a 2-minute opening statement, and probably just go down the line here. And then when we get to, when we get to asking the questions, we have 6 questions that we're going to ask, and each candidate will get 90 seconds to answer that question. Sort of the ground rules are really basic. It's like going to kindergarten. We don't speak over each other. We give each other the time to speak. And we're civil. I think we all know that. And so Jordan here is our timekeeper, and he has a yellow card. So when you are 10 seconds away from the end of your time, he'll flash that, and then you have 10 seconds to wrap up. And when we get to the longer questions, we will have time for rebuttal and whatnot, but each question is only going to take 10 minutes total for everybody's chance at talking. You don't have to raise to give rebuttal, but you can, and then I'll call on folks. Any questions? Is it 1 hour or longer? It's meant to wrap up in an hour and a half. Okay, anybody else? Okay, so we'll get started with Elizabeth McLaughlin.
Thank you very much, and thank you for having this event. My name is Liz McLaughlin. I'm a wife, a mother, a grandmother, and I came 20 years before I moved here. We used to visit family here, and we decided to move in 2007, and my husband and I each have small businesses here, and we've raised our family here. And I run a small business as a town planner. So what I do is I prepare reports on environmental and land use issues, and I also analyze town budgets for development issues. And I weigh the pros and cons of a given issue. That's my profession. So soon after moving to Brattleboro, I began by volunteering for Groundworks for the Empty Bowls Dinner, and then I also worked for the board of the Drop-In Center. And then simultaneously, in the town of Brattleboro, I was on the Planning Commission and the RTM member and the Finance Committee and the Skate Park Committee, among other things. And then I ran for Select Board. And I picked the Select Board because I think that work is really important. And it touches all of us who call Brattleboro home. And my commitment is to balance the needs of the community with good intentions and sound judgment and a steady hand. And I want a thriving Brattleboro. That's my vision for the town. I bring an understanding and insight of the business of the town to the challenges that we have. And those challenges are magnified by the fact that our state and federal government is curtailing funding to us. So that's the challenge. And my goal in continuing to be a Select Board member, I hope you'll have me, is to share this vision. We can have the town that we want if we all work together. I'm not asking for your vote.
Thank you very much. Moving on to Amanda Ellis-Thurber.
Hi, good evening. Thank you all for coming. My name is Amanda Ellis-Thurber. I came to Brattleboro because I was in love. And I'm still in love. And I'm still working for this community because I'm fully committed to this place, to its people, and the future and the responsibility we share to care for it well. Brattleboro has always been a town that does hard things well. Our spirit of resilience and connection is our greatest asset, and it must be a foundation for our economic future. We're facing real challenges, but I believe something deeply. Adversity is the companion of a champion. And Brattleboro has always risen to meet adversity, not with fear, not with division, but with determination and creativity, and that is who we are. My vision starts with affordability. Working families, young people, entrepreneurs, and seniors on fixed incomes deserve to live and thrive here without being priced out. That means expanding housing thoughtfully, strengthening our small businesses, community, and making strategic investments that grow our grand list while protecting taxpayers. It also means facing fiscal realities head on. We cannot promise everything to everyone. Leadership requires making tough, disciplined decisions with transparency and long-term planning. But affordability is about more than budgets. It's about opportunity. Our downtown, our creative economy, our schools, our natural environment, and our location along the Connecticut River are real assets. And we're not starting from scratch. We already have the talent, the beauty, and the community spirit that other towns are trying to build. Our job is to leverage those
So you're
strengths
close to the end, you are at the
to attract new investment, support innovation, and ensure that prosperity is shared.
Thank you. Mr. Ken Fay.
Thank you. Thank you for having us. Thank you for being here. And thank you for watching on TV. I came to Brattleboro 4.5 years ago from Alaska, from about 5 years in Alaska and 15 years in New York City. Those places in New York and Alaska couldn't be more different. And they gave me a very good, wide experiences, both in small towns in Alaska, in the big town in Manhattan, and Queens and Brooklyn. Why I am running is I just like helping people. And if somebody told me, if you like helping people, go into public service, because you can help more people and the most people doing that. And so thus I tried for the legislature in 24, came in last, not surprisingly, since I'm relatively new, and I figured, let me take a step back and go for the select board. I have my work cut out for me going against 2 incumbents, but I remain hopeful. What I like to do is help people, and I think the town can help people in many ways. We have issues, but they can be dealt with if the town is civically minded. I am trying to get as many people to vote as possible. We have a horrible, which isn't unique to Brattleboro, but voter
Thank you, Ken.
participation.
Your
Okay.
turn. Yeah, it does. Next up, we have Mr. William Bill Harvey.
Thank you. My nose itches, by the way, but I can't scratch it. My name is Bill Harvey, and I was born and raised right here in Brattleboro, Vermont, where I have been for the last 74 years. I have really enjoyed our town a lot. I am a homeowner, a husband, a father of 3, and a person who really enjoys the area that we live in. As has already been said, we're in a very unique area, and I don't know how many people have really thought about it, but you know, we're 2 hours from Burlington, we're 2 hours from Boston, an hour and a half from Hartford, and about 2.5 hours from New York City. So we're located in a very unique spot. We're kind of a hub of the Northeast, and it makes it a very, very interesting place to live. I've really enjoyed living here all those years, but I'll tell you what, I've seen many changes. Some of them have been for the better, but some of them are a great concern to me. I just want to let you know that when I graduated from high school, I got a job at what was then the Brattleboro Book Press. Working at the Brattleboro Book Press, I was able to make enough money to marry my high school sweetheart, buy a house, have 3 children, raise a family, and I still had enough money for a wood shop, a small motorboat on the river, and a garden. And I think to myself of the young people coming along behind me today that graduate from BUHS as a high school graduate, is that scenario still available? Do people who enter our town now find it easier, or is it harder right now to live the American traditional lifestyle? I'd like to think it is. I'd like to think it could be brought back. I too am for financial
10 seconds.
accountability, and I just want to make sure that the money that we are spending is from the money that we have and that we're not overspending.
Thank you. Mr. Randy Blodgett.
Hi, I'm Randy Blodgett. I've lived here for 7 years. I originally was from Philadelphia area, Pennsylvania. I married my lovely wife, Lindsay, that works at the Holstein Association. Initially, my education was in finance and marketing. I had a job where I worked for 2 or 3 years learning more about that and being in that field. And then I felt the need to open my own business for 22 years that I ran in the tri-state area. After that, a company that was a client of mine, I ended up working for and bringing some new technology, marketing in a different way in publishing that was in the agricultural world called Holstein World Magazine. My family's also in the dairy industry, as is my wife. They both actively operated dairies in their lifetimes. And I find that that is part of Vermont. There are a lot of my family that have lived here for generations. I believe that as Vermont changes for agriculture, it can also change the economy. In Brattleboro, economic development is the one thing I think we need to concentrate on. I think we also need a better housing mix, and I think we need to look at having everybody working together, not being, arguing over if it's a little bit this way or a little bit that way. We have to get together and try to actually finish things, get them done in the right way, and be successful. Thank you.
Thank you. Under time. Next up, we have Ms. Dina Chadwick.
Hi, I'm Dina Chadwick. I'm a third-generation Vermonter. I have 2 children that were also born right here in Brattleboro. I actually attended cosmetology school in the old building next to here 31 years ago. What got me involved in this is I saw our town kind of fading away into something that was not what was prosperous for everybody in the community. Being a hairdresser, I have a unique position where I talk to several people all day long. And, they were struggling. They were coming to me with problems. They can't afford this, they can't afford that. There's no high-paying jobs. In myself, I've had to pivot a couple of times, when big industries like when CNS went over to Keene and when VY shut, it was like a big pivot, rebuild your business. Brattleboro needs those businesses back, not those particular businesses, but we need businesses back in this area to help support people to have livable wages. We don't have that right now. We have a lot of $20 per hour jobs that if you could afford a $970 house or living situation, and that's got to change in this area. I have a huge life experience where I have lived in several different neighborhoods in Brattleboro, and I think that brings me to a broad spectrum of my different living situations and living insecurities, and yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. And next we have Mr. Isaac Evans Frantz.
Good evening. To those of you who are observing Lent, I wish you a meaningful Lenten season, and for those of you who are Muslim, Ramadan Kareem. My name is Isaac Evans Frantz. I was born in Brattleboro Memorial Hospital and grew up in West Brattleboro. My dad had a bunch of different jobs and grew a lot of our food. My mom cleaned houses and provided childcare. One of the things that I learned early on was the importance of community and of neighbors. When you're living in a rural place, you often depend on the people next door. So their neighbors would take care of me when my parents weren't available. We would share meals. We'd stack each other's wood when we needed support with the firewood. And that idea of neighborliness and of compassion, along with fiscal responsibility, are values that I bring to the Select Board. I made a motion on April 15th of last year to develop a 5-year financial plan, as well as a 25-year capital investment plan. Those passed unanimously. I have seen how making short-term financial decisions, looking just at 1 year at a time, has led us to really high tax increases and creates long-term strain. We have seen our roads, our bridges, our retaining walls, our sidewalks in need of repair, and we've underfunded them. So investing in infrastructure is something that I have spoken up for, and I'm really glad that the Select Board restored some of the money that had been taken out for road and retaining wall maintenance. I'm also really proud that I was able to support Amanda Ellis-Thurber's leadership, along with Oscar Heller, in getting the Brattleboro to support the preservation of the bridges over to Hinsdale, which are important investment in recreation and economic opportunity for our community. You'll see some differences between me and some of the other candidates up here, which you'll
wrap it up.
hear soon. Thank you.
Thank you. And finally, we have Ms. Eleanor Nell Mayo.
Hi, everyone. So I have a bit of an inverse story. I did not move to Brattleboro because I fell in love, but I did fall in love with the town, and I actually left a long-term relationship because I decided this is where I wanted to stay. I moved to Vermont in 2023 after spending my summers and Christmases here growing up. I grew up in Ottawa, Ontario, where I became politically involved at a young age. At 14, I started canvassing for local politicians that I really believed in. When I came here, the biggest imprint on me has been how much I love this form of government, how much I value the participatory nature of our government, and that it really demands being an active citizen as we are one. I came through attending select board meetings and our annual representative town meetings, and it prompted me to be further involved. So that has led me to where I am today. I've seen a great amount of passionate involvement from townspeople here, and I've seen some of that be taken advantage of and some of it go to the wayside. Through my experience on the Finance Committee, I've seen a great amount of informed concern for the way that we've been handling our finances in town. I believe that we have had an immense amount of work go into restructuring our financial processes, but I believe there's a lot of work still to be done. Those who know me through select board meetings know me as somebody who is diligent, pays attention to facts, really values those facts, and is able to have conversations across different viewpoints. And I'm looking for productivity. I believe that on a scale this small, we have to depoliticize and demoralize a lot of the issues that we've been concerning, and look at that as neighbors, we have a lot of common interests and where we can come together on those. So I hope you'll see that as represented through the rest of the debate here.
So thank you. You're all of you with your opening statements. So we're going to move into the question round, and just to recap that, I'm going to ask a question, 6 in total, and then the candidates each have 90 seconds to respond, and then there'll be rebuttal opportunity. And I think, to be fair, I'm going to start with Ms. Ellis-Thurber and then go down so everybody gets a chance to go first. So the first question is representative town meeting versus open town meeting. Are you for or against representative town meeting? And please explain your answer.
Thank you for the question. We have how many minutes?
90 seconds.
90 seconds. Oh, okay. So I feel strongly that our choice of governance is everyone's individual choice. There are 3 choices, right? There's representative town meeting, yes or no. There's open town meeting, yes or no. And there's also Australian ballot, yes or no. All of those 3 versions create opportunities for members of our community to stay engaged. I will say that Right now, I see Brattleboro as a fully engaged community that needs to also, and it's I'm not going to.
Do you want, go ahead.
So we're each going to get a different question, it sounds like.
No, we're going to ask the same question
Oh,
of all
great.
of you, so everybody gets a chance.
Great.
Yeah. Okay. And let me know if you want me to repeat the question. Would you like me to?
For representative town meeting, when I first came to Brattleboro, it was a unique concept, and I thought it would just be a rubber stamp of the select board. I attended one as a non-member, and it really wasn't, and so thus I got interest and became an RTM member. And I found it very, very informative and very useful. Part of the whole thing about one person, one vote, the alternative, is that people don't vote regularly. You know, the select board is much more important than to the RTM. The select board sets the agenda, sets the questions, sets the budget, everything like that. And we have 20% of participation. If the RTM was representative of the town, there would only be 30 people out of the 150 would show up at RTM. That's what, you know, the 20% of the 150 means. So I am very much for RTM, and I hope people vote, period.
Okay, thank you. Any rebuttal or follow-up that a candidate would like to say?
Just a little clarification. I too am on RTM, and I have sat through tens of select board meetings. The number of people that show up to vote is a little different than 20%. It's been from 9% to 28, 29%, depending on the year, depending on the district. They're all a little bit different. The last few years, it seems like voter turnout has been higher. So, you know, everybody should get out and vote is the most important thing that should come out of our democracy, no matter what governance it is. So just a clarification, and that is all on the town website if you go under the election tab.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else want to have a follow-up? Okay, Mr. Harvey.
Yes.
Want me to repeat the question?
Sure.
Okay. Representative town meeting versus open town meeting. Are you for or against representative town meeting? And please explain your answer.
Representative town meeting is really a great idea. And I remember when it first came along, and I remember the reasons why it came along. The interesting part is that when you have a representative town meeting, it should be balanced equally between liberals and conservatives. The way it is set up now, you are voted in as a member of representative town meeting, and quite often it is unbalanced. It is one-sided. So therefore, open town meeting seems to be the better choice at this point because it allows everybody to have a voice and everybody to have input. And it also allows for give and take, questions and answers for why or why not you're voting.
Thank you. Any follow-up or rebuttal to Mr. Harvey? Ms. Mayo.
I would respond by saying that the division isn't solely between liberals or conservatives. The division should be amongst the actual populace of the town, and so regardless of what those people's beliefs are, there should be an equal representation of who lives here, but we can't promise that that's always going to be a 50-50 split ideologically down the middle.
Okay, anybody else? Okay, Mr. Blodgett, would you like me to repeat?
No, I think I'm good. A lot's been made about this topic with numbers and analytics and feelings. And of the three governance that are going to be on our ballot in a few short days, I think it comes down to everybody's individual choice of what they feel is important to them. And that's why we're doing this. We need more people to vote more often. They need to come out and decide. And then after that vote, we're all going to follow through and make that form of governance better. And I hope everyone up here would support that. I myself am for Australian ballot. The reason for that is we were active at the Charter Review Commission. Things were changed from the way they seemed to be going. And then we decided to go out and form a petition. And as we talked to people, over 500 people, we didn't turn them all in even, but I think we had close to 6, said, we agree with you. And we want the chance to put that before to vote on it. And so there shouldn't be a fight. It should be a celebration of we have a choice in Brattleboro, and we can vote on it. And then once that decision is made, then we need to come together and really do the things that the town needs.
So I just clarification, you're asking about OTM, RTM, and Australian ballot?
Want me to read it again, just to refresh you?
Sure.
Okay. Representative town meeting, RTM, versus open town meeting. Are you for or against representative town meeting, and please explain your answer? And I think the open town meeting would be more Australian ballot. Is that right?
Okay.
No, I take it back. That's why I'm monitoring.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So I'm against the representative town meeting. I was able to be a rep this past year, and I'm not a fan of what happened in that particular year. And I've been talking to a lot of folks, and I feel like people didn't feel represented at that town.
My decision-making on the select board and some of the ways that I see some of these issues from a different perspective. And I want to remind folks that because of the decision last spring of representative town meeting to turn down the budget and the discussion at that meeting, the new select board created a new budget which actually curbed the tax increase. And also we created these financial planning and policies around maintaining certain amount of reserves for our town as a bit of a cushion so that we'll always have some of our reserves. So I don't think that would have happened if we hadn't gotten that input from representative town meeting, and it is a bit of a counterbalance. In this time when we're seeing nationally a concentration of power, it can be helpful to have have more shared leadership and having as many people involved as we can. So I support some form of town meeting.
All right, any follow-up to Mr. Evans first? Okay, Ms. Mayo.
So as a few people have echoed here, the responsibility of a government is to see that the democratic process is followed and honored. And so I think that in that, there's a responsibility to educate and to try to provide people with the most informed decision that they can make. And that would be my response on the surface of somebody with the potential to be representing our town. On a personal note, I really value town meeting. I don't have a strong opinion between representative and open. I am concerned that open would not have a quorum. I do think that would be needed if we were to move to open town meeting. The reason I value town meeting is because I truly value the dual legislative body so that we have through that, and I value that there's an incredibly dispersed amount of power through that. And I think that ultimately, while I do understand the argument for Australian ballot and that more people can show up to the polls and can fit into a room, I think that we give up power than we do that. I think the power to amend is strong. I think it gives us more checks and balances at various points. I think that we can call special meetings when needed and have that community discussion and have a more nuanced outcome than a yes or no on a ballot. I was involved in the petition for open town meeting where we also spoke to people and gathered signatures because we were concerned people didn't know it was an option and that it was representative or Australian ballot, not all three.
And Ms. McClough? Oh, sorry, did anybody have any rebuttal or follow-up to that? Okay, Ms. McClough.
So it's interesting to me because really letting the voters decide about which form of government is the whole point. Let the voters decide. I presided over a public hearing on this matter, and I just let the community speak. But since you're asking me, my opinion is yes, rescind RTM. RTM should not restrict voting to a particular few, and this has to change. It's not possible for RTM to represent the diversity of views and of the citizens of Brattleboro. And our town has changed, and we need to change our structure of government to be a more modern, open democracy. Why should a very small percentage of people be entitled to vote up or down on the town budget? That should be a decision made by all of us. So I'm voting yes, yes, no.
Okay, any follow-up commentary? Mr. Fay?
Yes, people have said letting the voters decide, and I agree with that. That makes a lot of sense. Let's get the voters out, though. Let voters vote. Voters aren't voting. 20%, 30% is the highest. That isn't the town. There's a lot of people who aren't voting. Ask your neighbor why aren't they voting? Whether it's RTM or the select board, people aren't voting, and that's a shame.
Yes, Ms. Chadwick?
So I just like to speak to that because people don't feel heard. They don't feel like their voice is heard, so that's why they're not voting, because they feel like it was all RTM is going to make the decision. So
RTM can make a decision on who gets elected select board?
I didn't finish talking,
Oh,
but
I'm sorry,
go
I'm
ahead.
sorry,
Go
I'm
ahead.
sorry. No,
Go
I
ahead,
thought
Ken.
you were. Well, sorry.
No, I'm done.
You sure?
I thought,
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody else? Go
One
ahead.
thing, this whole did RTM fail Brattleboro? I actually think Brattleboro failed RTM. Declining engagement for how many years? Those of you who've been RTM members, you saw it. We finally had engagement back. We had more diversity of voices there, but we were sleeping at the wheel. We were not participating. And now we're asked, what choice are we going to make? I agree with Liz that as a sitting select board member, it's a dangerous area to tread in to say, well, which one do I like? Because it is our personal vote. Because it isn't a select board matter. It's the body's matter.
Anybody else, Mr. Blodgett? Yeah. And then Ms.
A little clarity, we do vote when it's a national election. We're 60 to 72% over longer than a decade. For some reason, we don't vote for town meeting day. 9% to 28%. And, I could come up with a lot of reasons based on the year and the weather and who knows, but it's somehow we have to get our electorate more interested in those positions. More information, more engagement, more something to make them feel that what they're engaged in will count and matter to change the town how they want it. And we need to do a better job at that.
Ms. McLaughlin and then Mr. Evans-Friends.
Thank you. I just wanted to comment on Amanda's comment because actually the select board members don't decide this matter, but I have been a keen observer, being a RTM member for many years and then a select board member for 7 years. So I see that the change is needed. And when asked, I think it's important for me to give my views of what I think is best for this town. And that's why I want RTM rescinded.
Mr. Evans-Friends.
So if we continue with the status quo of having representative town meeting, we still have an Australian ballot. And it's in less than 2 weeks. On Tuesday, March 3rd, at the American Legion, all of us can go and vote on that Australian ballot, and nobody's suggesting that we get rid of that. The proposal is actually getting rid of one of the institutions of our municipal government, the representative town meeting. The second thing I wanted to say is that, Randy, you mentioned that we need more engagement, and it would be great to get more people out and participating. Last year, we had historic level in terms of what I've seen, in terms of engagement with representative town meeting. There was quite a bit of competition. There was people caucusing people in, competitive races, and I think that's good for democracy, and that's healthy when we get to debate like we're doing right here and have more people participating in the process. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Blodgett and then Ms. Mayo.
I agree. And then this year, unfortunately, we're back to where we don't have full RTM slates. And at the informational meeting, if we still have RTM, we will be caucusing 5 or 6 people in from each district, I believe. And some are 3-year, some are 1 and 2 year. So I think, again, I'll echo what Dina said. People don't feel they were heard. So we need to do a better job to make them feel heard, make them feel that what they want in town, no matter if it's 1% or 90%, at least they're valued. because democracy will win, but we still have to value everybody's opinion.
Ms. Mayo?
To the point about involvement, I think that is where I would echo again education. As someone who within recent memory came here and understood and began to learn the rules of participation, and to the point that people feel they're not being heard, I could say I hear that echoed both for town meeting and also heavily for select board meetings, frankly. And I think that we could really do better as a town to show people there are rules. We want to encourage people to come, and then when they come, oftentimes they feel they're beaten down before they even know why they're being beaten down, because they're not following rules they weren't aware were in place. And so I feel that's something we could really improve upon as a town. You know, for the sake of representative town meeting, people don't know they have to take out petitions to get on the ballot. They don't know that there's a write-in option if they didn't take out a petition. They don't necessarily know that they could come and be caucused in. I feel these are things that would really improve the health of our town as a whole, of our municipal government, but it is something that will be a labor of love across many parties.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Okay, we're going to move on to question 2, Australian ballot. How will you vote on Article 3 for Brattleboro to adopt Australian ballot voting for the approval of things like the general fund budget, major bonding or borrowing authorizations, public questions, and charter amendments? And what is your reasoning? I'm going to start with Mr. Fay.
I would be voting no against Australian ballot because I think OTM, open town meeting, would be preferable because of the activity, the interaction, and well, I'm for RTM, so if I'm for RTM, then Australian ballot. I don't like Australian ballot. I would if the town, if 70% of the town participates in the vote and RTM gets rescinded, I would agree with that. The town, that's what the town wants. If 20% vote and vote that RTM is rescinded, I would question that. That's 1 out of 5 people. And then, you know, if it loses the vote, does that mean the town doesn't want it, or the town isn't, you know, engaged? And that's, we talk about town engagement, and it's oftentimes an echo chamber. It seems like an echo chamber. A lot of people are talking amongst themselves, but the average Brattleborian isn't voting, and they're not engaged, and I think they're blaming RTM when it could be the select board. I don't know.
Any rebuttal or follow-up to Mr. Fay's comments? Okay. Mr. Harvey, do you want me to read the question again?
Yes.
Okay. Australian ballot. How will you vote on Article 3 for Brattleboro to adopt Australian ballot voting for the approval of things like the general fund budget, major bonding or borrowing authorizations, public questions, and charter amendments? And what is your reasoning?
I think Australian ballot is better than town representative meeting, but it's also very cut and dried. You're going to get a yes and no, yes or no vote, up or down vote. You're not going to really get a chance for participation from the town as to their desire, or some things need to be explained more. And I think the opportunity for give and take for questions and rebuttal is very, very important. So I would be for that, but I also have to realize that I remember when we used to have open town meeting, and the main issue of that open town meeting was over whether or not we should put an elevator in the BOHS. And I remember the many times that the people came out, they voted, there were articles in the paper, they rejected the vote, we went back and voted again. We didn't want it, and it was rejected. And then there was a meeting from the auditorium of BUHS to the gymnasium, and even more people came out. Tons of people came out. They wanted to vote it down again, and they didn't. There was great discussion, and right now we do have an elevator at BUHS. But the fact of the matter is that Brattleboro has changed a lot. It's much more receptive to the people in town. There's not that authoritarian attitude, so I think open town meeting would be very acceptable.
Okay, thank you. Any rebuttal, commentary, follow-up? Okay, Mr. Blodgett, do you want me to read it again?
No, I'm good, thank you, I
Okay.
appreciate it. I'm going to be voting yes, yes, no. I'm for Australian ballot. And like I said before, I believe everybody has a choice. We're doing these 3 ballot choices so that the town can decide. And then, like I said before, we will make the best of whatever one is chosen. There also is an article that was submitted to the Commons and the Reformer, and it went to all 3 of the ballot discussions, people that brought them forward, that I hope everybody will read in the next few days as they get published, to educate, explain, everybody gave their viewpoints because there is still confusion on that. But I will be voting for Australian ballot.
Okay. Comments, follow-up? Okay, Ms. Chadwick, do you want me to read the question again?
No,
Okay.
no, I got it. I will be voting for Australian ballot by Australian ballot. Imagine that. Back in the day, we weren't able to do that, and we can move forward with it. I just feel like people are so divisive, and we live in such a cancel culture right now that if you don't agree with what your neighbor says, then you're going to be boycotted. We live in a community that is built on small businesses, and we can't be doing this, people. We can talk with our neighbors. We can figure out what we want for our community. Broaden it out there. People aren't stupid. If they have a chance to vote, they'll vote. And that's that.
Okay. Commentary, follow-up? Mr. Evans-France.
I plan to vote no on the Australian ballot, but I will say that whatever option we choose, I think that we can continue to have civic participation and really good discussions as a community. I love the history of town meeting. We have had this institution for hundreds of years in Brattleboro and around the state of Vermont. It's been such an important part of our community. It provides oversight over decisions that a small group, including myself now and the select board, make. And we have seen on the select board there has been procedural maneuvering, there have been use of emergency powers to get certain political aims and agendas advanced. And representative town meeting is a body that can debate and discuss that and bring in more input. And I really appreciate the work of the Representative Town Meetings Finance Committee, which I'm glad to see a few of you members of that committee right here, because that body is able to come up with recommendations and feedback on the town budget in a very objective way, in a way that brings together people from different political viewpoints, but that's able to really give us some valuable feedback and input, which has helped me as a member of the select board. So I would be very sad to see that Representative Town Meeting Finance Committee, which Nell actually serves on, I'd be sad to see that committee go.
Thank you. Any follow-up questions, commentary? Mr. Blodgett.
I just say we can still have a town finance committee. We can still have a town human services committee, no matter what the form of governance is. And I applaud that we should do that. So we're not losing it. It might be a slightly different name, but we should keep both.
Ms. Mayo.
Committees are not appointed through town meeting. Who their client is changes. We have town committees, and the clients of those committees are the town as an entity, as an administrative entity. When we are on your representative town meeting committees, you are our clients. The people of Brattleboro are our clients. And so we've actually seen some divisiveness through the charter revision commissions reviewing how these committees would be appointed. When they had the committees interviewed, I'll say we, because I'm actively on the finance committee, we said that we wanted to be appointed by Australian ballot. However, there has been sentiment that the select board would like to appoint members to those committees. And so that is something that I feel is wrapped up in this whole situation of preserving power that is really dispersed amongst our town instead of allowing it to be further consolidated.
Mr. Blodgett.
I feel that the form of government we have, if that does occur and we don't want it to occur, we can change it. I will help you get a petition. I will go and knock on doors. The beauty of our governance is each forum has a way to make change. There isn't any locked-in mode. We need 470-some signatures for the 9,700 and some voters approximately we have. So if we don't want that to happen, it doesn't have to happen.
Okay, anybody else? Mr. Fay?
Since I've been here, there've been talk about a vocal minority and recently of a silent majority. And to me, those are terms that have no basis if people aren't voting. You know, if people vote, then there's a majority and a minority. Right now, it's basically hearsay, I think. You know, who wants what, where, and how. People don't vote. Get out the vote.
Anybody else? Okay, I think, go ahead.
I share your sentiment with getting out the vote, 100%. I do know, you know, work schedules, children at home, that appearing at a public town meeting, you know, we've heard that from a lot of testimony this year at the select board. So that, just keeping that in mind, more opportunities to vote are absolutely essential.
Okay, I'm just talking about March 3rd. I'm not talking about RTM. I'm
Okay.
talking, you know, because if you get the March 3rd vote to 70%, that will determine what the town wants. At 20%, is that what the town wants? I'm not talking about RTM or Australian or, yeah.
Okay, Ms. Mayo?
I feel obligated to bring this up because at every forum I've been at where there's been a discussion between Australian ballot and forms of town meeting, childcare is brought up. And what's also brought up is that if you would like your voice to be heard, you are encouraged to come to the select board meetings. And that they specifically bring up the duration of town meeting. What I will say, we do not have childcare stipends for select board meetings. We have childcare stipends for a representative town meeting, and I would assume that would carry over to open town meeting. 12 hours is a long day. I'm not asking people to commit to that. I have spent 6 hours in a single select board meeting. It's not really apples to apples in terms of easier participation in one.
Okay, anybody else? Ms. Chadwick?
I would have to disagree with you because you can participate for the select board via Zoom, and that's a form of participation. So anyone can Zoom in, they can raise their hand, and they can speak at that meeting in the comfort of their own home, which I've done before.
You're the last comment because we need to keep moving. So go ahead, Mr. Evans-Jones.
Dina, would you support a Zoom hybrid option for town meeting?
I would have to think about that and know what that looks like, but for right now, I'm supporting Australian ballot because I think that's the way to go.
I asked just because during the pandemic, early on in the pandemic, the town meeting was done over Zoom, and you know that we have the technology. And really appreciative of BCTV, by the way, for being here. But just one last point is that we have seen on Facebook the sort of the public discourse sometimes breaks down when it's just posting raw emotion on Facebook and attacks on one another. The newspaper, it's a little bit, I tend to see a little bit like there's a little more thought that goes into maybe letters to the editor. But in-person communication, I have experienced to be the highest quality of public discourse because it's harder to really attack them when they're right there. There's that accountability. So that's one of the reasons why I support us continuing to have conversations and talk about hard things and the decisions we need to make as a community.
Okay.
Thank you.
Very briefly, Ms. McLaughlin, you've been patiently waiting.
That actually, I presided over an RTM during the pandemic that was on Zoom, and it could be done because the voters of RTM were a set. And it's much more difficult to have an open town meeting or to have a hybrid town meeting. It's technologically very difficult and legally difficult, and I just want people to understand that.
Okay, great. Let's move on with Ms. May. I don't think you had your chance yet.
Not, thank you. If it hasn't been made clear, individual, I will be voting against adopting Australian ballot. However, if it is adopted, I would really like to see a robust informational session, and I would like to see that session not be presided over by the select board. I would like to see it presided over by the moderator, such that we can have a community conversation and that it's still held to me as a separate legislative body than the select board. I feel that town meeting is a vestige of participatory democracy that we don't see much in this world, and that honestly, my personal opinion is that it's a privilege to have it, and so it's one that I am loath to give up. I don't think divisiveness will be solved through further isolation. I think there's a lot of value in sitting in a room and having to face your neighbors and realize, I have a stake in this community, you have a stake in this community. There's a lot of people right in front of me who I know care and have worked hard to advocate for Australian ballot, and I'm looking in their eyes right now. I think that that's an important reminder for us to have, and I think that is something that open forums, be it representative, be it open town meeting, or be it a conversation before a ballot vote, really provide and are necessary for.
Yeah. Any follow-up, Mr. Blodgett?
I'd like to echo what Nell said, but I'd like to take it a step further. Some of the best meetings I had have not been the official District 7 caucus. It's been before that. 30, 40 people in the Academy gym in a circle of chairs. We felt we left that meeting with more done and more decided than we had at any other meeting we've been at in town, people said. And there was about 18 RTM members, the rest were just citizens. So I would like to challenge the community to offer a monthly meeting, a quarterly meeting, still keep the caucuses, even if we don't have RTM, so it's more neighborhood oriented to start, or some combination of both. I think it's very important, and we need to keep that, going so that people are more informed.
Okay, anybody else? Ms. Mayo?
To respond that there are community organized district meetings. I am aware that District 8's meeting is this Saturday from 1 to 3, and District 9's meeting is on the 24th. I'm unfortunately unaware of when District 7's meeting is.
Anybody else? Ms. McLaughlin?
I just want to comment that as far as I understand, only some of the candidates have been invited to that caucus.
We're going to move to the next question now, although not everybody had their chance.
Oh, we didn't? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I got two more people.
I'm so sorry.
Oh, okay. So Ms. McLaughlin and Ms. Ellis-Thurber, and then we'll move on to the next question. Go ahead.
Great. So I like Australian ballot so much, I call it the Aussie ballot, because I want to give it a term of endearment. I think we can have as many public forums as we like, and they can be robust. And I know the town of Essex gets people to these forums by serving them dinner. I want the most democracy we can get. And at the end of the day, after these meetings, we should let all the voters make their determination for themselves. And when we say that there's more engagement, then the town really has more trust. They understand that they have a voice and that voice is being heard. And I think that's the most important part. But also, I'm taken aback when proponents of RTM, I think they're insulting the voters of Brattleboro when they say only a select few are capable of voting on the budget, and only a select few should have that privilege. And I think it should be for all of us, and I'm voting yes, yes, no.
I'm just going to push forward because
Oh,
we're a little behind.
I have a little bit of time, and I just want to say how sweet it is that Amanda's husband and daughter, and her daughter's knitting, and my husband and daughter are here, and she's knitting too. And now they're blushing. Isn't that fun?
Spoken like a mom. Yeah. So Ms. Ellis-Thurber, go ahead.
Thank you for letting me know. They'll get us. First of all, I want to applaud the organizations who both made the Australian ballot open meeting because what that proves to me, the time is now in terms of our. If the Of Randy's idea, that's a great idea. We have other ideas on the table to inform our citizenry, to be able to ensure that an Australian ballot vote is going to be attended to. And then my hope is that our engagement continues. But that takes the work of all of us, right? To reach out to younger people who've moved to the community, to new residents, to get them on board on Randy's idea of the caucus, for example. I did, full disclosure, sign the petition for Australian ballot. I had neighbors bring it to me and was like, yeah, let's try it. You've seen me at select board meetings, and I'm an open listener, right? And I still believe it is everyone's decision when they enter that ballot box, how they're going to decide. So, still waiting on me.
Great, thank you. So I'm just going to move on to question 3 because a wonderful talkative group, but we're trying to meet some deadlines. So this third question is a 2-part question. I'm going to read both parts and ask you to address both in your response. So it's titled Downtown Vitality. The first part of it is, what specific steps would you take to support small businesses? Part 2, what is your vision for Brattleboro's economic development over the next 5 to 10 years? And I'll start with Mr. Harvey. Yeah?
That's 90 seconds for both answers.
Yes.
Great clarification. Thank you.
This is the challenge series.
It is a challenge because when I think about downtown, it's quite often that we'll go downtown and we'll see a lot of just black storefronts where businesses have moved out. And I think that what we need to do is to bring back in to the town of Brattleboro things that the people need, can afford to buy, and won't be going out of state to get. I think one of the answers to this question for downtown, and this is going to be very controversial, I'm sure, but we have a town bus, and we pay taxes in order to have that town bus. And one of the things the town bus does is pick people up and give them free transportation to our neighboring state to spend their money. And I don't know how you feel about that. There can be both sides of the issue. Obviously, if you go to the neighboring state where they have the large chain store, they can buy their goods for less. However, there's only so much money to be spent. And when they're spending it out of state, they're not spending it in state. And I think that that's one of the answers. Recently, we had one of the greatest stores that we could have in the town of Brattleboro, I'll say it, Sam's Army and Navy, is closed. And you have to ask yourself the question, why did it close? And so, can I have my 90 minutes for the second and seconds for the second question?
Unfortunately not, I'm sorry.
Okay.
So-
Any follow-up
Oh, sorry.
to Mr. Harvey's statements? Yeah.
Only a point of clarification in that what the town actually contributes to the mover bus is a very small portion of its funding, and so we as a town do not have that influence to be able to control their routes. But I believe that it's a great sentiment to how we can incentivize people to support what's local and vibrant here.
Ms. McLaughlin?
Yeah, that it's $50,000, and we do have a representative from the town on the mover board that could affect and get those thoughts out.
Any? Yep,
On
Mr.
the
Blodgett?
same thing, that board also has to abide by what the state regulators say is enough people on that route at any one time. So as long as the route's being used and they can raise money, the route's going to continue.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay, Mr. Blodgett, do you want me to repeat it?
Oh, no, I'm good. Thank you very much.
90 seconds for 2 parts.
So I believe we need a better retail mix downtown, and I know that's a tall order. Landlords can do what they wish within the zoning and ordinances of our town, but we no longer have something for everybody that comes here to shop. And we need to be cognizant of that into the future so that we can build revenue, we can have sales tax, as well as a more vibrant downtown, and more places for locals to shop as well, not just the tourism industry. Some things to build that economic development are we need people to stop off 91. A lot of people pass through town and never stop from 30, from 9, and other places in 5. But, you know, if we had anchor hotels, anchor restaurants at each exit, it would be a reason to pull people from 91. And there already has been economic development talk about that, just no follow through yet. That's going to take a lot more work. But that would be a way to bring them to town, stay overnight, and then the DBA and other organizations, the chamber, could look at ways to work with, to pull them from the restaurants or hotels to downtown for events and more things that are the culture and charm of our great town.
Okay, any follow-up to Mr. Blodgett's statement? Mr.
I
Harvey?
agree with him. I'm going to ask him, though, whether or not he would agree to signs on 91 indicating that we had those kind of facilities. I know Cracker Barrel at one time wanted to come to Brattleboro, Vermont. They wanted to put a place on the Putney Road. But when they found out that they couldn't put any kind of an advertisement on 91 for people to stop, they pulled out. Would you be in favor of people being able to advertise?
I have a little different way of looking at that. We're very close to the Massachusetts border where they do allow signs. And there could be a very well, put together campaign as you're approaching Vermont to stop at exit 1 for this, exit 2 for that, and exit 3 for even more fun.
Great answer.
Anybody else? Okay, Ms. Chadwick.
Can you repeat the question?
Sure.
Yes, thank
Yep.
you.
Part 1, what specific steps would you take to support small businesses? Part 2, what is your vision for Brattleboro's economic development over the next 5 to 10 years?
Okay, so I had the opportunity to go downtown and I talked to a lot of the merchants down there. I talked to Taylor for Flowers that have been there for 51 years. And I think we need to look at the businesses that have stayed there for a long time and what they're doing right. So I think we need to talk to those people and support them. One of the things that I heard a lot repeatedly is parking. I think that parking could be done a little bit different. I know that's like controversial and everything with downtown. And I know that the DPW's worked really hard at trying to get that up and running. But we need to give discounts to the merchants that work down there to be able to park, because they're paying a lot of money to park, and they feel not supported by the town. So that would be step 1. Step 2, downtown, I really support the opening of the bridges downtown and developing paths, and I think that would draw people into the downtown area a little bit more. Maybe get Vermont Country Deli to move downtown. Right, that joke worked. Okay, and so like I said in my opening statement, we really need jobs in this area. I know BDCC has got this big grant, and they're working on developing a place up on Putney Road, and I've got the yellow card, so I will stop.
Okay, thank you. Any commentary, rebuttal, follow-up for Ms. Chadwick's statement?
I agree with what you said about parking. I was just talking to folks downtown, business owners, and they were saying, they really miss, and we've heard this on the select board, they really miss free parking on Sundays. And I was really focused on making sure that our parking system was fiscally solvent and responsible and not making sure that our revenue matches our expenditures. So I voted against that, but I would be very open to revisiting that decision another term on the select board. And also the signage, we can continue to make that clearer and make it easier for people to park in our town. I was talking to someone at Latches who said there are people who no longer go to movies in Brattleboro because by the time they get their popcorn, stand in line, get their popcorn, take their time afterwards getting out the door, it's been 3 hours and their parking has already expired. So we should be make sure there's signage directing people to the transportation center and make sure there's options to make it easier to park in town.
Okay. Ms. McLaughlin had her hand up, and then we'll go to Ms. Blodgett.
I just wanted to mention that you can extend your parking from the app on your phone. And the West River Trail has a plan for a linear park and using the railroad bridge at the same location as those 2 bridges that were mentioned earlier. And it's a plan with a waterfront park tied to the museum. It's a very nice plan. It's it's very easy to approve and get built.
Okay, Mr. Blodgett.
In talking to the merchants of town, the good idea with parking, to echo what Dina said, they talked about being able to merchant to buy a token. And if somebody purchased something from their store, they could use that for future parking. And it could be a digital token with the app. That can be done. I've developed software, and I'm sure we can look at that. Some way that if you are acting and, helping merchants and the vitality of our town in the long run, it's a thank you for shopping in Brattleboro, and I would love to see that enacted.
Okay. I'm going to keep things moving, Mr. Evans-Frantz. You want me to repeat the question?
That's okay.
Okay.
When I was speaking with downtown merchants, they spoke about two things. They said, keep BRAT, the Brattleboro Resource Assistance Team. It's been very useful, very helpful. They've also said, make parking easier, better signage, some free options on the weekend. In terms of economic development, housing, housing, and housing. And that's why I made a proposal that we have housing be one of our top priorities for the Select Board, and at our summer retreat, the board adopted that. And I will continue to advocate for creation of more housing. We need to invest in infrastructure, our roads, our sidewalks, our retaining walls, and keep our town in good shape so that we can stay connected. It's important for the economy. It's important to keep our families connected. And finally, public transportation helps people get to their jobs, helps them get to the grocery store, which is money back into our community, and it helps people get to doctor's appointments and schools. So I will continue to support the small amount in our budget for that. And finally, affordability, because if people can't afford to live here because the taxes are too high, then that's not going to be good for our local economy. Thank you.
Okay. Any follow-up commentary? Okay, then we'll move on to Ms. Mayo.
So many points, really excellent points have been brought up here. I'm going to try to focus on these questions, and I'm going to speak from the perspective of a young person, because we really need more young people here, and frankly, as someone who catch me on a different day in a different outfit is, alternative. And frankly, that's what makes Brattleboro cool. It's what makes Brattleboro appealing. It's why people drive down here from 2 hours north for house shows that go on here. And we are known as an artistic town, and we're known as a streets art town, that kind of thing. And I've seen a lot of really amazing artists in Brattleboro who have either briefly maintained a storefront or who participate in the First Friday Gallery Walk, but they can't afford the Main Street rents. And so we need something that's tenable for the property owners, and we need something that's tenable for what's really appealing in our town. I would question if maybe we could pivot from our recent usage of the revolving loan fund back towards economic development, towards something that could be collaborative between those two groups. And also, we need those people to be able to last through the gentrification that we do frankly need to bring in the money that we're trying to get to pivot away from property tax reliance for our budget. I really want to shout out what Dina said in her opening statement about affordability here, about service workers here. I'm running out of time. But those people don't participate in the local economy because they can't afford to, and so they've created their own alternative underground one.
Thank you. Any follow-up, Mr. Blodgett?
Yeah, just one thing Rebecca, you brought up that was great was, we have a tremendous farmers market every Saturday in West Brattleboro. What's to say we can't somewhere else in Brattleboro nearby have an art festival every Saturday that's in link with that? Why we have people in town coming to that. At a recent economic development meeting I was at, it said, our musicians, our theater artists seem to be able to sustain themselves, but our physical art and performance artists have trouble. So we need to figure out how to let them be more economically viable so they have a living wage. And maybe that's one thing we can do if we create a place, and then obviously when the weather gets bad, we have to figure something different out. But we do have choices, and maybe we can make that available, and we can have a committee or a team work on that. I think it would be wonderful.
A specific example of that. There's a local artist and photographer, Esla Disler, and so there was an amazing collaboration between himself, I believe her name is Miss Kim, who owns the property, and the Downtown Business Alliance to allow for a lower cost entry to have an art market across the street from the Sam's Holiday Art Market. There was an amazing collaboration between all of them. The artists were able to participate at a lower rate than the Sam's market fee. The DBA was able to cross-promote, and the landlord was still able to get some kickback for graciously offering their property.
I'm going to move on to Ms. McLaughlin.
you.
Would you like me to repeat the question?
No, thank you. Well, for the first part of the question, I'd like to tell you what I, as a select board member, did to promote economic development in the downtown. We listened to the downtown merchants who cried out for assistance, and we created with Chief Hardy the Downtown Safety Action Plan. And economic development can't happen without public safety. I've talked to the downtown merchants and they agree. And in addition to that, I just want to say that the Downtown Safety Action Plan is working, and so is the collaboration between police and social service agencies. But for the long term, I think what we all have to come together, and we all are pieces of the puzzle. So when we're picturing a thriving Brattleboro, just as we collaborated with the safety and social services, our town manager is pulling together an economic development collaboration. And that has great promise. And it's called Next Gen Brattleboro, Crafting a Shared Future. And their plan is to get 802 young people to come and live in Brattleboro. And so that echoes a lot of the things that we've heard here. It'll create a more livable community, which we all want for ourselves, but we also then can invite more people in.
Okay. Any follow-up to that? Any comments? Okay. Sure.
Because you just brought up Brattleboro, Next Gen Brattleboro, or Brattleboro 2032. Just this morning, I texted 40 members of our community who are between the ages of 20 and 30 to attend an event on Friday. It's many select board members and our town manager and members of the community that are part of this endeavor. It is truly very exciting, and so just wanted to add that.
Great. Let's move on to you, Ms. Ellis-Thurber.
Okay, this is my favorite topic, my absolute favorite topic, and it's the reason why I'm running for the three-year term on select board. Brattleboro's economic future is, we have to work very hard, but it's really joyous work. As Liz mentioned, the Working Group for Economic Development has been initiated by an initial meeting that happened November 6th, with a future meeting this spring. And what it is showing is that when Brattleboro works together, when we roll up our sleeves, when we create a very wide net of merchants, of business owners, of citizens, of nonprofits, that we can, with our own strength, grow our economy. So I'm very excited about it. There are exciting models, some that were mentioned today, Randy and Mel's, or Nels, that are so exciting, but also our existing agencies, our BDCC, our DBA, and other members of our community. And I will say there are exciting marketing models that we can engage in to get our downtown, support our downtown, as exampled by the Route 30 Collective, right? If anybody knows about it, it's a collective marketing tool. Businesses were kind of failing on Route 30. A member of the community started a collective marketing initiative, and those businesses are now bouncing back, including some Brattleboro businesses. I'm very excited about this talk. Thank you.
Great. Any follow-up? Okay, Mr. Fay.
Thank you. Specific steps for small businesses. What I would do is continue to work, or not continue to work with DBA. I've found them very, very helpful, and I enjoy throwing ideas back and forth with them. The other thing in terms of my vision for business development is differentiating Brattleboro. Answer the question, why Brattleboro? There's a lot of, we have the arts, and there's a lot of good things about Brattleboro, but what would make it unique? I'm going back to that thing, vote. If we got a great voter participation, an engaged community, combine voting, a really high voting percentage, with being nice. that would go a long way. It's not that hard, and it would, to me, it would make companies, people, it would make a lot of people look at Brattleboro and say, wow, they're getting it done. They're voting and they're nice. Unbelievable. How are they doing that? And I think that'll help a lot. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We're running short on time, so we're going to truncate this a little bit so we can get 2 more rounds of questions in. We're not going to have any commentary, just say your piece, and we're going to zoom through. So we're going to start question 4 with Mr. Blodgett, and the question is public safety and services. How should the town balance investment in public safety, social services, Department of Public Works, and what changes, if any, would you advocate for?
I do agree that we need a good public safety system. I think the BRAT team has been a wonderful new change to the town, to where I would liken it to, you know, some people used to call policing a sledgehammer, and now we have something more delicate, like a soft brush that can get people the help they need sooner and more directly than we ever had before. And I hope we continue to improve that and look at it. I believe human services, there unfortunately is a situation that hasn't been talked about yet, where we have $1 on an article for RTM currently. It's somewhere between that number and the 2% that we talked about at RTM. I talked to David Miner, the Human Services, chair, and I said, we need to get a group together. We need to figure this out before that big meeting. We need to have a comprehensive discussion and decide where we're at. And it's beyond RTM, it's our whole community. So as many people want to get involved in that, we need to have a plan, we need to have a coalition and really get down to brass tacks of what we want as a community. And it shouldn't just be the 140 or 50 people at RTM that decide that. So I'm hoping we can get that done. But we also need vast improvement in our roads. I mean, there was a study done around 2021 that we needed 700,000 to keep even, $1 million to be better, and we only still are spending 500,000. And the total number is closer to 18 million in a report I can provide if somebody wants to see it.
Great. Ms. Chadwick.
Can you repeat the question, please?
Sure. Public safety and services. How should the town balance investment in public safety, social services, Department of Public Works, and what changes, if any, would you advocate for?
Okay, so I had the opportunity to meet with all the department heads. I met with about 7 department heads one-on-one, and I talked about what they do and how they do it and how they're working. It was a wonderful opportunity to be able to see our town working together, the DPW, the Brattleboro Police Department, and the Fire and EMS. Don't want to screw that one up. So, yeah, they all work together, and even the library, they work together with them, and it's like having human services all together, wrapped up in our town employees and our department heads. Our roads do need to be fixed, and we don't have the budget for that. And I keep hearing cut, cut, cut. I hear, let's take 5% off of, the biggest budgets. And that means, that'll mean no good roads. Bye-bye that. Bye-bye Brat team. Bye-bye all the things that we all are talking about how wonderful they are. So I just want to caution people when they blanket cuts across that way. We need to support our town.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Mr. Evans-Franz.
There's no inherent conflict between compassion and order, or between financial responsibility and public safety. We can actually address all of these concerns when we do so in a way that's inclusive and when we plan ahead. One of the things that I really was glad that we were able to do was to invite staff of the folks from the police department, from Department of Public Works, from the fire department, to come and speak along with people who have been unhoused in our community, who have lived in encampments, and service providers to have a conversation about how we can improve the process of encampment removals and how we can make it work better for people. That's been, that when we actually can listen to each other and have conversations and make sure that everybody who's affected by decisions has a seat at the table, will make better decisions. We can support human services and human service organizations modestly in a way that doesn't break the bank. The select board voted to completely eliminate that funding, not a dime for those organizations, after the electorate had voted to have at least 1% of the budget be for human services. Now, I don't think deciding on a percentage of the budget is necessarily the best way. I think we could do this more sustainably, but we need to follow what the electorate, what the voters want. And finally, public safety is essential, and we can do this in a collaborative way. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Mayo?
I would say that some of these services impact the others. For instance, as you know, both Dina and Randy have echoed here, and Isaac, the infrastructure that largely our Department of Public Works is responsible for, that affects our emergency services, it affects their vehicles. It affects in some ways, social services. If you're thinking about access to the library, if you're thinking about the targeted populations that need more assistive help. I think that we need to, for me, it comes back to understanding our long-term commitments. I think we need to further invest in some of our cost planning for our capital infrastructure to make sure we understand what's coming down the pipeline. That will give us a clearer idea of where we're at, what we're basically strapped into, and then what we can afford from there, what we have to cut, what we could add, to understand what things actually cost to us. Everyone said it, great kudos to the Brat team. You know, I've heard that across various different social demographics, income demographics. And I think, you know, I would use the mover as an example. The town decided not to cut that contribution during the FY26 budget redevelopment because they were told that the investment they get out of it is greater than the dollar amount that goes into it. And so I think for human services, sometimes that can be the case where what's going into a specific organization yields a greater benefit, but that's an individual situation.
Okay, thank you. Ms. McLaughlin?
Thank you. Could you repeat the question?
Sure.
It's kind of been a while.
Public safety and services. How should the town balance investment in public safety, social services, Department of Public Works, and what changes, if any, would you advocate for?
Great, thank you. So, Isaac brought up the encampment policy, and I think that's a really good example of our first responders, nonprofit social services, and public works working together right now in our town, and they're doing good work, and they're treating people with dignity. I think a little explanation of One Brattleboro is it's a collaboration of state and town officials with all the nonprofit service leaders working together, and that's such an incredible achievement. And what it creates is actually case management that reduces police response, gets people the help they need, and reduces our budget. So that's key. But I think when you're talking about how to budget these things, you need to understand each role. And I wouldn't, you know, Groundworks, for example, helps with the encampment, but they're not on our town payroll, and nor should they be. I think we all need to be careful not to assimilate nonprofit agencies into our government. And I think that's where the human service comes in, because what we wanted and what my colleague moved for and the select board was to have the conversation of human services budget inside that very same conversation as the budget, and not have it off to the side in isolation. It needs to be discussed together, and I think we need to not grant so much money to a social service agency as has been proposed, that it supplants our own government staff. And I think that that's the risk, and we need to be very careful of that.
Thank you. Ms. Ellis Thurber.
Yes, thank you. We are so fortunate here in Brattleboro that Chief Hardy came here and in collaboration with our town manager, our select board created the Community Safety Action Plan, which integrates social service providers, human service providers from HCRS and also the BRAT team, non-armed police officer on our street, and works in collaboration with our human service agencies, Groundworks, HCRS, Interaction, probably you guys could name a whole bunch of others. That's a model within our state. Chief Hardy has been asked by other communities to talk about how she's retained police officers, built a team, and also balanced within the community. So our public safety and our community action plan, I believe we have to continue to fully fund at this point. When it started, we had an emergency on our hands. That was the summer of, Liz could probably tell me, 2023. Merchants, residents were coming to select board meetings, standing up and saying, something has to change, we're in a crisis. We were in red like this, right? Emergency, emergency, emergency. You know, we're not there anymore because of this awesome plan. Maybe we're like here, but we got to keep working on it. We have to keep funding it at this point so that we can get to somewhere that's better, where we can open up to this economic opportunity, which we were saying. Our social service,
One more sentence.
our social service providers are awesome in our community, and without them, yeah, we would be an oarless boat.
Okay. Mr. Fay.
Yes, most people have made some great points. It's tough to do something unique after all those good ideas. The One Brattleboro is a good working, it's working, but it's in partnership with nonprofits, and those nonprofits are part of, I mean, they have a lot of agency, or they're working to help us. Shouldn't we give them a little amount, you know, in terms of paying for their services? If their CEO, if their head people are part of One Brattleboro and wanting to make downtown better, I think, you know, that it should be a two-way street. They're giving and we should give as well. Also safety, the town is responsible for public safety. Public safety for all. I've seen that banner, and it rings true because I think statistically the unhoused and the poor and the addicted are at more risk than other people who might just be uncomfortable with them. I don't know, since I've been here, I think there was one car stolen from, or attempted stealing from the garage. So anyway, I guess that would be, and just services, you want to maximize services and minimize cost.
Excellent. Mr. Harvey.
Very good. Living in Brattleboro right now, it's amazing to me. I think it's a very safe place to live overall. I think the services that we have that have been put in place have been doing an excellent job, quite realistically. The one thing I do hear about from the people that I interact with is the parking garage that we have. And maybe an improvement in the parking garage would be to have it a gated garage with a person there who would monitor the garage, and people would only have to pay for parking for as long as they were in the garage. In other words, you got a ticket when you went in, like other cities, and you pay your ticket when you come out for the exact time that you spent time in the town of Brattleboro. But as far as our services, I am overwhelmed with the human services that we have in Brattleboro. They are excellent. And I don't know how many people have taken advantage of them, but the Adult Learning Center, for instance, is fantastic. I mean, they can train you, they can give you a degree, you can learn so many things. So I think the human services that we have are just above board. I think anybody that wants help can definitely get it in the town of Brattleboro. So I'm very proud of the town of Brattleboro for that reason. I would like to see You talk about safety. I have to mention something about safety, just as an individual. Lived here all my life. There's a stop sign everywhere. How many of you notice there's a stop sign everywhere? I'm not sure we need all those, but when it comes to safety, we're safe.
Thank you, Mr. Harvey. So we're going to cap the questions at that. You all had some good take advantage of your time. We don't have time to get through all 6. So right now, we're going to move to the last phase, which is a 1-minute sort of wrap-up closing. And you're up, Ms. Chadwick. Everybody gets 1 minute for your closing statement.
Okay, so I just want to echo what everyone said here tonight, because we all want the same things in this town. Bottom line, we want to be safe, we want to be prosperous, and I just urge everybody in this community to work together. I talk about the 3 T's. If you have time, if you have talent, or if you have treasure, use them, volunteer. Let's make this place better than it is. Thank you.
Mr. Evans-Franz?
Brattleboro doesn't need fear. What we need is steady leadership, collaboration, shared leadership, disciplined planning, and it's the community that's going to help us achieve the balance that we need. I'm really glad that I've been able to stand up for financial responsibility, and I have worked to curb the tax increases. That's something that I will continue to do if you re-elect me to the Brattleboro Selectboard, and to continue prioritize financial planning, replenishing our reserves, and I've been glad to help curb the increases in the cost of the trash bags that we're going to be seeing. Supported efficiency reforms in the waste management retrieval, and I will continue to stand up for an inclusive process, inclusive town government, where everybody has a voice at the table. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Mayo?
So I hope and I feel this is a shared sentiment here, but part of what I've been saying that I value about our system of government here is that it really does demand participation to be an engaged citizen. So whoever is elected here, I think just the process that we're all here tonight, that we're engaging in civil debate, that we're doing it and we are responsible for our own comments, for understanding the direct impact of that. I think it pushes us all to be better. It understands whoever gets elected, you cannot be complacent, you cannot rest on your laurels. There is someone waiting to chomp at your heels, and that is because we all have an investment in our town, and we are all deeply frustrated by some things, passionate about others, and concerned about core tenets like the vitality of the town, about affordability, about people who are from here, their ability to stay here, and an ability to attract more people into it. I came here for that, and I appreciate being able to participate in it.
Thank you. Ms. McLaughlin?
Well, Brattleboro's a wonderful town, and I'm grateful every day for the privilege of living here and serving our community. I want everyone, residents, workers, visitors alike, to have a positive experience when they're here. And young, old families, I see you, individuals, and I want to maintain a civil, safe, and welcoming community for everyone, and it's essential to share our well-being. Our town government plays a vital role in this, keeping our roads, parks, library, public processes, and functioning safe. I believe in a unified Brattleboro, one where we look out for one another and build a future that works for all. And I want to ask you for your vote so I can continue to work on behalf of the town of Brattleboro.
Thank you. Ms. Ellis-Thurber?
It's been wonderful being at this table with so much optimism. And it makes me think it's truly the time to reject the narrative that Brattleboro is defined by fear or decline. Fear may generate headlines, but it does not build housing, it does not grow businesses, it does not bring neighbors together. I believe in collaborative leadership and listening. The work is about all of us. Strong community connections between neighbors, between government and local organizations, between businesses and residents, and open, respectful dialogue are what our future depends on. The moment is now for fresh leadership. The moment is now to grow our economy. We're looking at 3 years of possible change. I ask for your vote for the 3-year term in the Brattleboro Selectboard, and I hope you have a good night.
Thank you. Mr. Fay?
I would like to use this as an example. We had 5 people going for 2 spots, 3 people going for 1 spot. It was a debate, and I sure think it was civil. And I would like to keep it that way. I would like the town to understand you can have differences and still talk it out. I think there, the 8 people up here, we're similar in the sense that we want the best for Brattleboro. And so do a lot of people in Brattleboro. I just hope they would vote. I'm beating it to death. But really, I think voting means a lot. You can then say majority or minority. Right now, it's a nebulous term. And be nice. You can disagree and also be nice. Thank you. And vote for me. Or vote for just vote.
Thank you, Mr. Fay. Mr. Harvey?
Yes, I would like to say that mainly I'm for fiscal responsibility. I think that's the main thing that I'm running for the board seat. I believe in growth. I think that we need to bring into our area trade and skilled manufacturing jobs where a person can get a trade right out of high school, can learn a trade. I think it might be interesting to note that at Webb here in Brattleboro, where people pick up their plumbing supplies, they did a survey to find out what the average age of a plumber was in the town of Brattleboro, and it was 48. That should give you pause. We are an arts community, and I think that that's wonderful that we are an arts community. We do a fabulous job, but I think that we also need to bring trades back into our town if we're going to exist. The other thing I'm for, affordability, opportunity to make a living wage. There's a lot of manufacturers out there who are providing that, and we need to bring those manufacturers into town to better our tax base. And accountability, I believe in result-based tax spending. If you're going to spend money, we need to see results.
Thank you. And finally, Mr. Blodgett.
Hi, I'm Randy Blodgett, and I'm running for a 1-year seat. I'd like to earn your vote. I also would like you to vote. I would like you to bring your neighbors to vote. They are the most important things we can do in our town. I also am for a robust economic development in this town. I was appointed by the town manager as the economic development volunteer consultant. I still hold that position. I am for strong housing with a strong housing mix for a vital economy. I believe in financial transparency and financial efficiency. We can do better with the money we have. I want to build on our excellent culture and social climate we have in town. The change I want is in addition to making that community already better and using it more effectively to build our economy. The last thing I'll leave you with is, please love your neighbor. Please go home, always interact and check on your neighbor. Love your neighbor, love Brattleboro. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. I'll let Jordan have the last word tonight.
Oh, sure. Thank you all for coming here. We had to kill 2 of the questions, but you guys had a lively debate and hope there was some great takeaways, and we appreciate you all showing up here tonight. Be well. Thank you. Thank you. Yep. Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate you. It was good feedback. Well, it's not very highly paid, unfortunately, so it would be a career more of a hobby.
Well, it was a good thing to do.
No one